got the name in front of you? Okay, we will begin. This is the third session of the evening, and we will be having a number of candidates, and we will begin. My goodness. Candidate, you're going to have to change your names or move your names around. Candidate John Casper, you will begin with a 2-minute introduction on why you're running and why you hope to be elected in November.
Sure, do I have to hit the red button? Oh, here we go. Well, first I'd like to say thank you for everyone being here tonight and participating in our American democracy. That's great, and I want to thank all the other candidates for number one running and for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and it's been an exciting campaign. I think I've probably knocked on 5,000 doors and talked to all kinds of people in District 27, and it's been really interesting to hear all their perspectives, and I look forward to working for them the next 4 years and listening to them. I remember I graduated high school in Wapton, North Dakota in 2002, and right now we're having a great time in North Dakota. Things are going very, very well for us as a state, and I'm very proud to be a North Dakotan. When I graduated in 2002, that wasn't, we were in a different situation economically. In 2002, I remember going to high school and we were talking about bringing new people to the state and paying people to stay here. I don't know if people remember, we have all the measures going on this time. Remember Measure 3 a while back and possibly paying people to stay here or paying for school. Anyway, we're in a great place right now, and that didn't happen by accident. There are a lot of good decisions that were made in the last 20 years in North Dakota to lower taxes and encourage business and continue to grow our economy. And due to that, we have growing communities, we have growing state budgets to be able to fund our state government and our priorities, and I'm really excited about the future of North Dakota. And I'm very proud that to have the opportunity to run and continue to move the state in the right direction. That's why I'm running. I want to work for the young families and make sure that their children, I knock on the doors in the district and it's the same thing every time. It's like, knock on the door and first the dog comes down. Then, 1 or 2 kids come down and stick their face against the glass and wonder who this weird guy is knocking on their door, if he's selling something or not. And then mom or dad comes down. And I always tell them, I'm running for that next generation to make sure they have every opportunity to get a great education and have a great life here in North Dakota.
Okay, thank you very much. John Casper and District 27. Our timer this evening is Jolene Gardy, and if you people could face Jolene as you speak, you'll also be looking at the camera, and we certainly want to get you on camera for the television audience. Our next speaker with a 2-minute introduction is Warren Solberg. Warren.
Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting us here tonight so we can share our views. I am a lifetime resident of District 27. I can remember back when it was about a 5-minute drive between Fargo and West Fargo down Main Avenue. Our district at that time was largely agricultural. A lot has changed in those past years. I live on a farm south of Fargo. It's our family homestead. Our family has lived there for 4 generations now. My children are the 5th generation. I have a lot of practical experience. I have graduated from Fargo South High, went 1 year to NDSU, and then graduated from Moorhead Tech in diesel mechanics, and eventually ended up back farming again. I bring a lot of practical experience to my viewpoints. I have been involved with Farmers Union as a county president, and at that time I have worked with the Board of Governors and in policy and action. I have lobbied in Washington, D.C. For farm programs, and then also on the township board where I learned that you made decisions and then you ended up having to live by them because your phone rang and not somebody in an office down the hallway. I look forward to being a representative or a senator for District 27, and I hope that I can be a support and a guide to the people in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. So far, we have heard from the two Senate candidates for District 27, John Casper and Warren Solberg. Our next speaker will be running for representative in District 27, Thomas Beadle. 2 minutes, please.
Well, thank you. I'd like to, again, thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and especially thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to come to an event like this. As a former debate coach, it warms my heart to see people that actually pay attention to this stuff, because it doesn't always get the attention it deserves. My name is Thomas Beadle, current member of the House of Representatives representing District 27, which is the southwestern portion of Fargo. I was first elected in 2010. And I serve on the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee, the Political Subdivisions Committee, and then during the interim, I serve on the Higher Education Funding Committee, as well as the Economic Impacts Committee. So kind of run the gamut around the state for various interests, whether education, economic development, which deals with oil and infrastructure and those sort of issues, as well as child care, and then all the overall business climate within the state as well. So I kind of run the gamut on some of the issues. What first prompted me to run back in 2010 was I've grown up in a family with a strong dedication to public service. Many of you know my stepfather, Senator Grinberg, District 41, who's retiring at the end of this year. And then my grandfather, Earl Strinden, served in the House Representatives for 22 years, from the 60s through the 80s. So I've kind of grown up with a strong dedication to public service in my family. If you feel like you can make a difference, then you should seek out the opportunity to do so. So that's what prompted me to run. Since being elected, I feel like I've been able to represent the people in District 27 well. Our average age as a district is 29, so we're a younger district in the state. We're also one of the fastest growing. Our population's grown 380% since 2000 within our district. So we're one of the fastest growing districts, not only in Fargo, but in the state. And so I feel that I have represented those folks well, and I feel that I have the energy, the enthusiasm, and the passion to continue to serve them and be their voice out in Bismarck. So that's why I'm seeking re-election, so we can continue to move the state forward and make sure that we set ourselves up into a situation to succeed for generations to come.
Thank you very much, Thomas Beadle. Our next speaker will be Randy Baining, running for the legislature from District 27.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the people in the audience tonight. I've been elected since 2003. I got my arm twisted by a gentleman down here, a couple of seats down. I've been almost a lifelong resident of District 27. District 27 kind of followed me from a hometown up to Fargo. I've been in Fargo for approximately 20 years. When I first moved to Fargo, you could drive downtown Broadway on a Friday night. You could park any place you wanted to. Now if you drive downtown Broadway on a Wednesday night or whatever night, you can't find a place to park. We put in good policies in the state of North Dakota. We're bringing in new people from all over. I'm doing a lot of work out of town, and I get to meet a lot of people from out of state. I ask them why they come in here. We got jobs. We have no jobs back home. Pretty soon the boyfriend or the husband or the wife comes out and starts working. Pretty soon their spouse comes out or the girlfriend moves out with them. They're coming out here for the jobs. I think we've created a good environment out here for businesses to start work. We've got many thousand, 20+ thousand jobs available out there. We're trying to find people on the job site I'm working on. We've got a lot of qualified people here, and we need to keep this our economy going. It's a strong economy. Oil industry in western North Dakota is driving lots and lots of things. We're seeing new gas plants. We're building new buildings, new houses, new businesses. We're thriving. I drive down the interstate and I see new buildings. I mean, you see all this stuff going out to western North Dakota, and it's amazing what's happening out there. Sure, we got to do more out there. We have to do a lot more here in Fargo as well with flood protection. Representative Carlson just had a proposal out in flood protection today. Our district is at the forefront. We need to protect our city as well. We are the largest economy within the state, and we want to keep it that way. And thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is running for the House of Representatives in District 27, Logan Heinrich.
All right, so I talk to farmers for a living, so I'm just going to say this right out. This is the most nervous I've ever been, so if I squeak, that's why. But, so point number one, actually, my name is Logan Heinrich. It's a how we do things in the Heinrich family, I guess. We're not like all the other Heinrichs, but so a little bit about me, you know, where I came from. I grew up in a small town in North Dakota called Adrian. It's south of Jamestown, about 30 miles, and you know, we had horses and pigs for a little while and goats, so I grew up on goat milk. It was really cool. When I was about 16, that's when I started getting involved in a lot of stuff. I was actually the local Farmers Union president at that time, and then I was a state delegate for 3 years. I was actually national delegate for 2 years through Farmers Union. And then I joined the military. I served some time over in Iraq. When I came back to Iraq, I attended NDSU. I started as electrical engineer major, and then like most college kids do, I realized that wasn't the right thing, so I went to crop and weed science, and I got my degree in that. Ever since then, I've actually been an agronomist. I've been working very intently in the agricultural industry. Right now, I'm a regional agronomist, and my entire territory is the whole state of North Dakota. It actually goes into South Dakota and Minnesota as well, but with my job, I get a very unique perspective of what is actually going on throughout the entire state of North Dakota. I get to see it from the agricultural side. I get to talk to all the old ladies and all the old guys in the coffee shops in small town in western North Dakota, southwest North Dakota. So, and you know, and why I'm running, you know, I'm going to tell a little story. In 2004, I was out in Iraq. We were sweeping mines, and to put some perspective out there, that was the last time NDSU and UND played football. And at that time, we were over there, and we were thinking, you know, we were hearing about this thing called fracking out west. And, you know, that's a decade ago. And we are finally starting to think about fixing this problem of addressing these issues. And those issues should have been addressed a long time ago. So that's why I'm running. I want to bring in a new perspective, a good understanding.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is also running for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 27, Jess Roscoe.
Well, first, I'd just like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate tonight. There are really few things that I appreciate more than good, genuine conversations about North Dakota issues, and so thank you so much for providing a venue to do so. Like was said, my name is Jess Roscoe, and I'm running for the House of Representatives in District 27, a piece of South Fargo that I call my home. I joined this community when I decided to attend Concordia College, where I earned a degree in communications and global studies. But I originally actually come from New Rockford, a small town of about 1,200 people that pillars on agriculture. Professionally, my background is in nonprofits, primarily with an organization called SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, where essentially I work with young people and help them make positive, healthy life choices. But somehow I doubt that everyone in this room is sitting here tonight to listen to me rattle off my credentials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the question, why am I running? You know, it's no secret right now that North Dakota is the envy of the nation. We've been blessed with an abundance in both energy and agriculture. We have some of the lowest unemployment rates in the state, in the nation, excuse me. And more than ever before, we're prospering. But you know, with this prosperity and with this growth also comes growing pains. Last session, North Dakota's legislature, led by a Republican supermajority, focused very large sums of time hitting social issues. And frankly, this left many needs of North Dakotan people, men and women, unmet. Needs in our schools, needs for better infrastructure, and need for meaningful tax relief. Frankly, I believe that there's too much groupthink going on. Our legislature needs balance. We need common sense, and we need leaders that are going to put the people first. Common sense and balance were missing from the 2013 legislature, and frankly, it's going to be missing in 2015 if we continue down this path. We need new, fresh, and moderate perspective, and I am confident in my ability to provide that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a candidate for the North Dakota Senate from District 41, Kyle Davidson.
I'm hoping to bring some common sense. Thank you. Thanks to the League of Women Voters. Appreciate the forum here tonight to talk about issues and talk about why I'm running for the legislature. So in order to understand a little bit more about why I'm running, you have to understand a little bit about my values and where I came from. I grew up out in Bismarck, and my father worked for the university system. He was the Associate Commissioner of Research and Curriculum on the 10th floor of the Capitol. My mom sold real estate and decided that she was going to go to college at night, and she wanted to be an elementary teacher. She went back to school when she was 32 years old. The only choice at that time was Mary College. And so you can about imagine my dad writing tuition checks to a private school as he worked for the university system. That didn't go over quite well. But the thing about my parents is they woke up every day trying to help, trying to do something for families, trying to do something for kids, and trying to do something for teachers and educators. And it was to strengthen the community through developing workforce and helping those that came to school every day and worked in the field of education. And so as I'm working now and with my family, I started at Great Plains Software when I came here to Fargo about 30 years ago, or about 20 years ago, and got into education about in the mid-90s. And I'm currently the executive director of the Southeast Education Cooperative. And really my focus is to help the next generation workforce and help prepare that next generation workforce through implementing stronger policies in education, create stronger investments in education, and really focus on helping families and kids and strengthen our community through stronger policies in education.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a candidate for the Senate from District 41, Evelyn Quigley.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event tonight, and thank you all for coming out. I am Evelyn Quigley. I am a native North Dakotan, graduated from Jamestown High School, and have lived in District 41 for 37 years with my husband, Brian. I have a master's degree in nursing administration and a minor in business administration. In my career as a healthcare executive and registered nurse, I have had the opportunity to have considerable experience in finance, strategic planning, and working with the workforce. I am running because I believe these are the skills that we need to bring to Bismarck in dealing with very complex and comprehensive issues. Through my work in the community, which has been extensive, I also have learned to work with individuals that have different points of view. And what we need to accomplish in our state is bringing together all the good minds to come together and develop a solution. I am committed to the development of permanent flood protection for North Dakota and Fargo, for building a sustainable and responsible economic growth, for investment in educated and a prepared workforce, work with healthcare providers and businesses so that we can expand access and affordability to healthcare. Developing a strategic direction for the state, in my opinion, is imperative.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a candidate for the House of Representatives from District 41, Pamela Anderson.
Thank you, and thanks to the League of Women Voters and all of you that are here. I spent my entire career in the financial services industry, retiring as a senior vice president of Wells Fargo. I know numbers, budgets, investments, long-range planning. I believe this background, combined with my extensive community involvement, has prepared me to represent the wishes and needs of District 41 in the state of North Dakota. I will not spend legislative time and taxpayer dollars on school logos and unconstitutional initiatives. I do not believe we should dissolve the Board of Higher Education, and I would never vote to reduce the oil extraction tax like my opponents Al Carlson and Betty Grandy have done. I believe they have gone too far in advancing their personal agendas. What I am about is no-interest student loans, funding for early childhood education and Head Start, keeping the defined benefit plan, retirement plan for teachers, and I have always been committed to state funding for permanent flood control for Fargo. Al was elected 21 years ago, Betty 17. So they are used to managing low or no growth. We are in a different economic time. It's an incredible time for North Dakota. And quite frankly, I think we need a new mindset. I think we need new leadership in Bismarck that can prioritize the state's short and long-term needs. I have the background and the passion to do this. Voters in District 41 have a choice this year, and I am asking you to choose me. You can expect more from me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a candidate for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 41, Al Carlson.
Well, thank you for the opportunity and for the people that showed up tonight, because this is really one of the few opportunities that we get to sit face to face and answer questions. I always appreciate it when my running mate gets my name right, or my opponent, because there are significant differences between the two parties. But what I'm not going to talk about is what she talked about. I'm going to talk about my approach to government and why I believe I'm a good candidate. I was first elected in 1992 to the legislature and have served in many committees across there, and I have always brought a common sense, business-like approach to government, because that's how it should be run. As an employer and a contractor for 32 years, I signed the front side of the paycheck instead of the back side. I had to make the payroll, and I had to deal with the regulators instead of being the regulator. So there is a different approach that you take to government as you do that. Now, I have served under 3 governors. First, Ed Schaefer, who meant business, and look what it's done for the state. John Hoeven, who had a priority system that was excellent. He said, fund your priorities, make sure you build a strong reserve, and the third one, return some of the money to the taxpayers who you took it from in the first place. We have followed those principles. We have record investments in most every area: infrastructure, education. All those things have had record investments by the legislature, and I will never apologize as a Republican that we expect accountability and performance for your tax dollars that we spend on those programs. So I will continue, if reelected, to bring a common sense, business-like approach. It's been interesting, all the accusations that come out, and I hope they come up in the debate, because we'll set the record straight as to what really has taken place in North Dakota and what those votes have been. I'd appreciate your vote as we go forward.
Okay, now I am going to apologize. We had a little bit of housekeeping we forgot to take care of. We want to remind the speakers to bring your microphone. You can move it so it's 6 inches away from your mouth when you're speaking. And the camera is over there, and if you want to be on television, you got to look at the camera. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is running for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 41, Betty Grandy.
Thank you, and thank you this evening to the League of Women Voters for this forum. It's always good to have this opportunity to get in front and to speak on the issues, and everyone here for attending and taking time out of your evening to come to this event. As was said, my name is Betty Grandy, and I have been representing District 41 since my first election in 1996. I was born and raised in Williston, North Dakota. I have family there still. We still have our family business, and we also have business interests of our own out in Williston and in the region of the Bakken. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in education. I have a degree in sports medicine and have spent much of my when I was working and not at home being a mom, and now being home helping raise my grandson, I spent a lot of time in the inner city schools of Minneapolis working with those kids and helping them through their educational time. In the legislature, I have had the opportunity to serve on the Education Committee, the Judiciary Committee, the Finance and Tax Committee. I've chaired the Government and Veterans Affairs Committee and spent a lot of time on veterans issues. I am now serving on the Education and Environment subsection and the Full Appropriations section. In the interim times, I've served on the Budget Committee and Government Finance Committee, but I also serve on 2 national legislative councils. And on those, I am a part of the Energy Task Force of each of those committees. And during that time, in the last 18 months, we've been focusing a lot on the state's roles and their dealings with 111D regulations of the electrical industry, the EPA regulation of oil and gas industry, We're working a lot on the waters of the U.S. and the rule changes because of the way they will affect an agricultural state like North Dakota and the energy production and the housing growth that can take place within the urban and rural areas. And we also are working on the Endangered Species Act and the changes being made. Now you wonder, well, why the national issues? Because they directly affect every business and every household in our state. And it's critical that we are aware of those roles. In the legislature, I take a business-friendly approach and to this kind of governance. And I believe in sensible regulation, lower taxes, and the free markets. And so we'll continue to talk more about those when we can talk about the hardworking families in my district. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last introductory speaker is running for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 41, Sheila Christensen.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this chance to share our ideas with you. Anyone who wants to see my resume, I have it on a brochure outside the door. As I've been going to door to door, I've developed a wish list of wants that people in District 41 would like to have. Permanent property tax relief for home business owners, decreased sales tax and income tax, a renter's tax credit, permanent flood protection, responsible pipeline and oil transport protections, to end tax on your Social Security benefits and veterans active and retired benefits, protections for individual rights, the elderly, and the end-of-life rights. I would support yearly 40-day legislative sessions due to the fast-growing needs of North Dakota. Work to create an ethics commission, which was voted down last session. Increased support for law enforcement. Updated infrastructure and bridges. Support early childhood education, which was not funded, and increased funding for K through 12 and higher education. To eliminate interest on student loans. The economic development and strong business climate, and to build our workforce for better paying jobs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll get into the question and answer period. The questions are written out and they come from the audience. The first person to answer a question is going to be candidate for Senate, Warren Solberg. I live on the north side of Fargo. I have grandchildren who are on the south side of Moorhead. I spend a lot of time looking at the trains going through this community. Is there any solution you can think of that the legislature in North Dakota could do to improve our train situation and particularly dangerous crude in North Dakota?
Well, I believe that one of the first and most important things is to start building these pipelines that are being held up. Sandpiper pipeline, my understanding is going through Keystone. I've never quite understood that if the tie-up is getting the oil from Canada into the United States, why don't they just build that pipeline from Montana down to Oklahoma and start running the Bakken crude through it if it doesn't need any type of approval from the president? I think we can start there. With the increase in grain productivity, with the improvements in genetics and grains, the abundance of corn that's being grown in our state, I see where there is, a demand for rail cars for commodities for grain, and I don't see that lessening. Hopefully we can get some of the oil traffic off, but there's still fracking sand, and there's everything else that goes along with our vibrant economy. I think the best that we can do is to, build underpasses where we can to get traffic from one side of the town to the other. And I guess I'm not in favor of building a railroad track around town. I think we can live with it the way it is.
Okay, thank you. The next person is going to answer this question is Thomas Beadle.
So Fargo-Moorhead area was developed because of the railroads. Our whole community was really established due to the fact that the railroads intersected the river, and so they had to figure out a way to get the railroad across, or get the trains across, and then this was a natural stopping point. So the fact that the railroads are kind of a central portion of our community is really a blessing, because that's what led our community to begin and to thrive. In the last few years, obviously, oil impacts have been impacting the east side of the state almost as much as the west, due to the train traffic and some of the other economic impacts have been hitting. But what Warren said is absolutely correct. Pipeline, number one, because the trains are better than shipping crude by truck. It's overall much better for our infrastructure, much better for our state. But pipeline's much better than trains. And so we need to continue to move forward with pipeline projects, both gathering line projects as well as transmission projects, such as the Sandpiper one, because that'll alleviate a lot of the train traffic and then allow the grain and the farm product to be shipped through rail. So rail's not going to go away. That's kind of the bedrock of our city and how we came to be, but pipelines will help alleviate the oil traffic through rail, which would be a significant benefit.
Okay, the next person to answer the question is going to be Randy Baining.
Thank you. You know, doing a lot of driving, I see a lot of trains parked along on the sidings waiting for the next train to come through. The railroads have been sticking hundreds of millions of dollars into the infrastructure in the state of North Dakota alone. Once that infrastructure gets in, we're going to be able to move trains from one end of the state to the other end of the state. We need pipelines in the state. They're being held up in Washington. They're being held up by environmentalists in Minnesota. We need to get these pipelines through. We got people from other states saying we got these so-called bomb trains going through their states, but we need these pipelines. That's very critical. Life wasn't, Rome wasn't built in a day either, but trains are a vital backbone. I see grain being piled on the ground. We've got a big issue out there, but I think the railroads are investing many hundreds of millions into their infrastructure, and once that gets done, some of the growing pains will be alleviated in getting the grain and the commodities out of the state.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question is Logan Heinrich.
And you guys thought Democrats and Republicans can't agree. I think, I'm going to agree kind of what everybody's been saying right now. Pipelines is number one. That's the first thing we got to do is we have to get safe pipelines that is going to transport that crude out of the Bakken and down to the developing areas. It's a much safer. It's going to be much safer than doing these railroad or running by trains. Plus, the advantage we're going to get there is that a lot of people are missing is with these trains taking up all the oil, farmers aren't allowed to ship their grain. That's the number one way that they ship their grain out to Minneapolis and then by barge down south there. Right now, a lot of elevators are doing like a $1.25 basis, which means if corn is at $3, they take $1.25 off. That's hurting our economy overall. This isn't just going to keep our citizens safer overall in our urban areas. This is also going to help boost our agricultural economy, which is taking a hit. It is kind of starting to take a back seat to the oil companies right now, and that's something that has to change. So we do need to invest more in getting, working with these train companies and getting them more on board, and then getting these pipelines set up so that we can transport this crude down in a safer area.
Thank you. Next person to answer the question, Jess Roscoe.
Well, I'm going to reiterate a lot of the points that have already been made. I think pipelines are the first step to solving these problems. We need more pipelines. Like Logan said, it's a burden on the ag industry as well, and we need to be making sure that we're protecting the industry that built us, our agriculture. Another point, though, is that's kind of been missed is Castleton, 20 miles from here. A train exploded. I do think that as North Dakotans, we need to be taking steps to make sure that we are transporting our oil in the safest ways possible. And I think that as a state, we need to take initiatives to do that on our own terms. And so, I mean, I think that it's a very complicated issue, but pipelines and North Dakota-based regulations, I think, are the place to start.
Thank you. Next person to answer the question, Kyle Davidson.
Well, I think one of the strengths that I bring to the legislature is the ability to bring people together and come up with solutions, take a problem and work towards a solution. And I think at the federal level, federal level, Senator Heidkamp and Senator Hoeven and Representative Kramer, along with the Ag Commissioner. I think they're working closely with the railroads. I think they're working really hard, coming up with solutions. Clearly, the pipeline is a solution for moving oil. Everybody's already talked about that, and that will free up then the trains to move some of our commodities. But again, it's being able to bring people together, come up with solutions, and eventually we'll be able to free up more rail, and we'll have better solutions for moving oil through the pipelines.
Thank you. Next speaker, Evelyn Quigley.
I believe this is a perfect example of the important need for our state to have a strategic plan and a vision, so that in fact when we have this prosperity in the state, that we are prepared. We are prepared and are working with our federal representatives to, in fact, ensure that we are taking advantage of this, this wealth that we have in our state. So I would see myself as a legislator bringing forth the need to have a strategic plan, look at how we can have the sustainable growth which we are blessed with, and make sure that we are dealing with the issues that are affecting us, such as what the agricultural industry is experiencing, what we are concerned about from a safety perspective as we are transporting the oil in the present mode.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Pamela Anderson.
Well, I agree. We do need a pipeline. I think that will make a difference. And even though you might say railroad is a federal issue, but when it impacts our communities and the economics of our state, we need to take some responsibility in this as well at a state level. I agree with Evelyn. I think the railroad industry was totally unprepared for the explosion that went on in the western part of the state. We need to have people that are thinking ahead and not reacting to, oh, now what do? We can't get our farm products from our farms. We've got the oil. It's just very reactionary. And I think we ought to spend some time saying, what are we going to need in 5 years from now, and work on it.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Al Carlson.
I'm really glad to hear that all the Democrats up here are in favor of pipelines.
We are.
Because it's their party, and there is a difference between the political parties. There is no Sandpiper completed today because the Democrats in Minnesota are holding it up. There is no XL Keystone pipeline leaving North Dakota with some of our Bakken crude on it because they're holding it up. There is no new design for railroad cars because the National Transportation Board, controlled by their president, has not come up with a new design in 3 years. So there is a difference. I'm in agreement with pipelines, but those are federal issues that are stopping. And in North Dakota, our products don't stop at the border. This is a country. And we have to deal with those around us. And the policies of those people around us are drastically affecting our ag products and our oil shipments. And that needs to be changed. And they are not the solution. They are the problem.
Our next speaker is Betty Grandy.
Well, thank you. And yeah, in agreement. I mean, it is a pipeline issue, but make sure we're all clear that this pipeline issue we could have been proactive. We did have plans in place, but this administration stopped those plans from being able to take place. We have invested, the industries dealing with oil and gas in North Dakota have invested billions of dollars in infrastructure and pipelines in North Dakota. We get our portion done, but we can't get it out. So we need to get the federal government to allow for those types of things and other states to work with us on that. Our agricultural commissioner actually just worked with and is setting up an agreement with the Port of Vancouver to do the train system and getting our grains shipped out to the coast through a system in the trains. We are being proactive, but we need to be able to get those agreements done without the federal government crossing over into the state and trying to stop us from being progressive on that.
Thank you. The last person to answer this question is Sheila.
No.
We got John still.
John.
Oh, sorry. I did that wrong. Okay. the next to the last person to answer the question
Well done.
will be Sheila Christensen. Sheila.
Thank you. Congestion on our trains is hurting our agricultural economy, and wait times at crossing tracks is a big issue locally. I too believe that the pipelines are the best option. However, I have a concern about the leaking and oil spills and how it may contaminate our agricultural land and our water supplies. Perhaps the state refinery is one answer.
Thank you. Now, the last person to answer the question on railroads.
So I'm last, so what's the first thing I'm going to say? I agree on, definitely agree on the pipelines as far as transportation and reducing the, amount of railroad activity. I think that, I agree that that's been held up in large part by the federal government and our current administration, environmentalists in other states. That's an issue. I got to say on the safety issue, though, I think that's important. We all talk about that, and I'm glad that this is one of the first issues brought up. It's important to me. My father's actually a railroad engineer for the Burlington Northern, so he's on the tracks every day driving these trains. And I totally agree that North Dakota should look at this. I think the Public Service Commission is doing that. I've spoken with Julie Fedorchak about it, who's a current Public Service Commissioner, and is putting a plan together to do that. And I look forward to working with them in the legislature to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for our citizens with the added activity. I also think that North Dakota has a rich tradition of bringing both parties together, as far as political leaders, business leaders, to come up with a common sense solution, and I look forward to being a part of that.
Thank you. The first person to answer our next question is Thomas Beadle. The question is, since North Dakota has the highest workplace death rate in the nation right now, do you believe that the North Dakota legislature can do something, such as increasing state safety regulations, inspections, or something else to lower this horrendous workplace death rate?
Well, workplace death rates is definitely one of the rankings that we're not proud to be number one on. We do have a number of laws and regulations on the books, as well as some federal regulations coming from OSHA, examples, and groups like that help regulate some of the issues. But one of the reasons why we have such a high workplace death rate is because, A, we're a low population state, so rates often get skewed, because we have one incident here that's going to affect the needle a lot more than one incident in Minnesota or New York or California. So low population state does impact our rates. And then two, the industries that have been thriving in North Dakota are higher risk industries. Agriculture doesn't come without its risks. We've all grown up with news stories of individuals losing an arm in a combine accident or crop plane disaster where crashing. So those are high risk. Agriculture has some high risk to it. Energy development has some high risk to it because you're dealing with combustibles. There's obviously some steps that can be emphasized and taken a little more so, but I do believe we do have a lot of good regulations in place to help address those concerns. It's just due to our small state status and what our economic engines are, that those rankings do end up getting skewed a little bit. That's not to say we don't have a problem, just that we need to take it in stride a little bit.
Okay, the next person to answer this question is Randy Baining.
Thank you. You know, being in the construction industry, I work around a lot of large equipment. You make one false move, one slip, one slide, you could be underneath a bucket in 2 seconds, you could be killed real fast. I watch guys in trenches working, buckets above them, machinery around them. It takes a lot of training. It takes trust in your operators. I know the oil fields, I got friends that work out there. They're trained a lot. I mean, accidents do happen, like Thomas said, with their small population, where the rates are going to be higher. And it does take a lot of training. I know oil field workers, they are trained heavily. Construction workers, we do and we don't train as much as we should be. We are regulated by OSHA. OSHA is very stringent. You get caught doing something, the regulations, if you do all their safety equipment, you probably put another 10 to 20% on a building project. Guys up on roofs with ropes, that tethered up there, and you start walking around, you could be tripping over those, and the safety equipment could actually cause a major hazard. It could get killed that way as well. It takes a lot of training on both parts, on, safety. Big equipment, it doesn't take much to get killed in some of these instances out in oil fields or in construction.
Thank you. Our next person who will be speaking on this issue is Logan Heinrich.
Yeah, I think, Tom, you said it pretty well. I mean, it sums it up when you have such a low population. We're just shy of 700,000, and, you know, we get one injury there, and you go to, you know, 7 blocks in New York City, there's 7 million people, and you get 10 people injured there. Well, it's the same ratio. So, you know, having a lower number of populace does skew that quite a bit. And I think there's still a learning curve that we're getting with the new oil, with these oil companies coming in. I think we're still learning how to actually work with the oil companies, make sure that their employees are working in a very safe manner. You know, I used to actually work for a company that actually would go above and beyond actually what OSHA would do, and I think that's something that necessarily we don't have to do at the government level. If we need to, it's something we should do, but I don't think it's necessarily what we need to do to implement. I think we just need to work with a lot more of these companies and trying to encourage them to make sure that their environment is a lot safer. Agriculture has always been a dangerous thing. Like Randy was saying, even the construction industry, when you're working with big equipment, you know, things happen. Sometimes, you know, it's out of your controls. But this is something where I think we in the legislature can work with these oil companies, with farming industry, and try to educate people to operate in a more safe manner.
Next person answering the question, Jess Roscoe.
While I definitely agree that these numbers do need to be taken in stride, and I do absolutely agree that a lot of the industries that our workforce is employed in our state are definitely high risk. But at the same time, I don't think that it is wise to just brush this off as another statistic. I think that it's definitely worth taking a look at in the upcoming legislative sessions. To see where we are falling short in terms of regulations. I'm not saying that we need to completely redo what we already have done. I'm just saying that I look forward to working with men and women on both sides of the aisle in order to make sure that we do have the safest workplace that we possibly can for our people. Because at the end of the day, that's who it's about.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question is Kyle Davison.
Thank you. Again, I really think this is a workforce training issue. I was just involved in some discussions recently as far as working with Williston State College and the North Dakota Safety Council and in helping train people better, finding the stronger qualified training people, and also, as we're going into high schools, we're putting new curriculum in there that try to align career pathways with the jobs in the oil field. And even with seniors in high school, we're putting curriculum into those new career pathways that help deal with workforce safety training. And so, again, people working in the oil field, it's dangerous. And they're human beings, and the choices they make, I don't think you can always have a policy for everything that they decide there, and it's part of the industry, but we need to keep investing in training through our colleges and our workforce training grants.
Our next person to answer the question, Evelyn Quigley.
I guess I would look at it from the perspective of what is the Industrial Commission doing. I would also look at what are the staffing patterns of public health services, who's been given a tremendous responsibility to go out and do all of the investigation. And furthermore, I do believe that our staffing patterns can lead to tremendous safety issues. I believe it is extremely important for our state to be concerned about our safety record. We are desperately trying to recruit individuals to work, and so I believe creating a safe environment whereby the work can be accomplished is critical.
Thank you. Next person to answer the question, Pamela Anderson.
Thank you. You know, if you're the family of that person, your statistic is one death. So yes, the numbers are skewed because of our low population, but I don't think we should say we really don't have an issue because of those numbers. I don't know what we can do, to be honest with you. My initial reaction when Tom said training, I thought yes. Kyle said training too. Is there something we can do somehow that helps support the companies to give as much training as possible to their brand new workers? And I would, if it's the Industrial Commission, we need to do something about this, because one death is one death too many.
The next person to answer the question, Al Carlson.
Thank you. I served on the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee when we reformed a lot of the laws of workers' compensation, which is now called workforce safety and insurance. But probably one of the best things we did that hasn't been brought up yet is that we set up a safety grant training program for the businesses that they could apply to and that they could get their employees trained. We also put incentives in their premiums if they were injury-free, that these employers would cost less. So we basically forced them in the door to take the classes, but then they could be rewarded if they had a safe workplace. And that is the key. If you've been out west, and I've had the opportunity to go on oil rigs and things, I have never seen more safety precautions put in place than when somebody shows up on those sites. I was in the construction business where everything spins and turns and can cut things off. And we paid the highest premiums that anybody could pay because we had a high risk of loss in that. And we participated in their safety training. It made my carpenters better. It made it a safer workplace. And we are doing things, and those programs available at WSI are good programs, and every business should be encouraged to be involved in those.
Thank you. The next person to speak on this is Betty Grandy.
Thank you. It's kind of hard when I have to finish after every question after the majority leader here and try to reiterate or find something new to add to it. But born and raised out in Williston, I've spent a lot of time seeing the booms and the busts and the movement of growth within the oil and gas industry. Back when we were in the late 70s, early 80s, and we were looking at the workers there, that was dangerous work. And those were chains flying and everything else, where you were seeing the loss of limbs and lives at a far greater rate than what you would see in today's market and the way the work is done today. And that is thankful to the fact that industry themselves have taken on a great deal of that safety aspect. They don't want to lose workers, and they don't want injured workers. For the incentives of WSI, that's exactly a point where we as a state can do that type of thing. The oil and gas division of the regulatory is the regulatory arm of that, and they are working diligently over and over on every aspect of that. And yes, there is always more that can be done. Nothing is ever done to perfection out there like that. Thank you.
Our next speaker on this question, Sheila Christensen.
A few thoughts I have, and I have to follow both of these guys. And number one would be that the hours of work, especially out west, may need to be shortened and more days off so that workers can get needed rest. I think being tired is a big safety issue. Second, man camps and the lack of housing to promote a normal lifestyle, I believe, is also a problem. And proper training for the jobs and safety regulations along with the proper clothing and equipment to do the jobs.
Thank you. The next person to answer this question, John Casper.
First and foremost, I look forward to working hard to keep North Dakota the safest place to work and live in the country. And obviously, we're not living up to that right now, and there's more work that needs to be done. Reiterating what some of the previous candidates have said, I think we need to continue to incentivize industry to train and work hard to make sure their employees have as safe environment as possible. I also think that business should be made to follow the rules. No one's really sort of said that. I mean, if there's rules on the book, there's laws on the book, there's regulations on the book, the state and federal government should enforce those. We can't change the rules every day because the business needs to know what they are. But as long as those are on the book, that should be enforced. I also, I think it's an interesting question. I was in Williston recently. I was actually visiting with a medical doctor who is in the occupational therapy area of his practice. And, he mentioned all of his clients are all the companies, because all the companies are sending their employees there. All the companies he's working with the companies to set up their programs to be more safe. So I think that, as there's more competition for employees, which there is right now, there's going to be every incentive for these businesses to continue to provide or work harder to provide a safe environment, because people aren't going to work someplace that isn't safe.
Okay, the last person to answer this question is Warren Solberg.
Well, it's very hard just not to say yes to all of the above after listening to everyone else talk. I think the only thing new that I could possibly add where the state could have or does have a say in helping with workforce safety, and it's something I found on the farm, is that whenever you're hurried or stressed in some manner, or lack of sleep, that's when accidents seem to happen the most. And something that the state can do is provide the infrastructure and the means for these workers to get back and forth to their jobs and not have the stress of the traffic. And those who do drive for a living, which I do, to have the roads in such a shape that they don't have this necessary stress or unnecessary stress that they do now.
Thank you. Take a minute here to tell you who is sponsoring this candidates meeting tonight. This is the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that promotes citizen involvement in public policy and education and advocacy. Our members are independents, Democrats, Republicans, and others, both men and women. We have this year, in 2014, continued a tradition that we started in the 1950s of the production of a nonpartisan voter's guide. And those voters' guides will be available in the back. A number of questions have come in concerning the constitutional amendments and statutory initiatives that the voters will be asked to vote on in November. Some of these amendments began in the legislature, and particularly I'd like to have the people on this panel ask the question, did you support the placing measure number 1 on the ballot, and do you support placing measure number 4 having to do with referral and initiative on the ballot? And we will begin with Randy Baining.
Thank you. Yes, I did support both of those measures and put them onto to the ballot. I guess I'm a pro-life person. I've had a cousin that had a baby, and she could have had an abortion. She chose not to. She went out and gave birth to the baby, gave it up for adoption when she was 16. I wish we could do more of that here in the state. We've got people all over the walks of life here in the state that are spending tens of thousands or $100,000 to adopt a baby from overseas. We are killing babies here in the state, and I think we really need to take a look at it. And along with Measure 4, you know, I think we need to look at some of that. We have another measure that's on the ballot at the same time that's going to take and basically give a panel of people like us up there, let's just give us $300 million and we can spend it whichever way we want to, basically. I think we really need to take a look at that. We can't put stuff like that into the Constitution as well, and I think we put it on the ballot. We're going to let the people of the state of North Dakota have a chance to vote on it. If it goes either way, that's what the state of North Dakota will have to abide by. Thank you.
Okay. The next person to answer this question is Logan Heinrich.
Well, now this is going to get interesting. So yeah, I'm not supporting either one of those, actually. And number one, you know, this isn't even, to me, not even about abortion. This is actually just a very poorly written law. I don't think abortion's right, really. I think it is a person's choice, but that doesn't mean I think it's right. But it's very poorly written, mainly because when you get to that situation where if a woman's life is in danger, what does that doctor do? Because if you have to protect the right of both of those individuals, you just created a paradox that cannot be created. Everybody's wrong in that situation. So this law it's poorly written, you know, and this isn't even going into the in vitro fertilization, which I think is wrong. That it'll go, you know, going in Iraq, I already have a will set up. And you know, the end-of-life decisions that I have created, I'm afraid of this voiding that. But you know, the biggest reason why I'm against this is mainly because, you know, when you have women with the situation that will have a possible fatal pregnancy, you know, you're still forcing them to have that child, and that is unfair. That is not something that we should be doing. You know, if this law were written differently, maybe I would have a different opinion. But for how it is written, I'm not supportive of Measure 1 in any way.
Okay, the next person to respond to this question is Jess Roscoe.
Like Logan, I do not support either Measure 1 or Measure 4. Following that exact same train of thought, I think that Measure number 1 is dangerous. I do not base my opinion on the morality of abortion, and so oftentimes I see the debate in favor of Measure 1 framed into that. But also, like Logan said, we need to take into account do not resuscitate orders in end-of-life decisions. Also, in vitro fertilizations for men and women who want to have children but can't on their own. Also, to save the life of a woman. This law puts very, very personal decisions that should be made with women and their families in jeopardy. And so I think that we definitely need to vote no on that. And as far as measure number 4 goes, I believe that North Dakota has a very strong initiated measure process as is, and I don't believe that we need to change it at all.
Thank you. Next person answering this question is Kyle Davison.
On measure number 1, I wasn't in the legislature when they voted to put this on the ballot. I am pro-life. I think measure number 1 is a personal decision. There's a lot of rhetoric going on both ways as far as what would happen or what would not happen. I think each person needs to go out there and research those issues and think about those issues. I know in our family, my wife and I weren't able to have children and went through some processes and decided to go to Russia to adopt 2 children. And so I think for each individual, you need to determine with this initiated measure how that impacts you and the clarity of what needs to happen as far as making your vote. Measure number 4, I support measure number 4. I think it's important from the initiated measure standpoint that we have enough time and to make sure that the process is done properly and that I think measure 4 addresses that need.
Okay, the next person to answer this question is Evelyn Quigley.
I would be opposed to both initiated measures 1 and 4. As a registered nurse, my whole career and my practice has been working with individuals to give them their choice. So that is critical from my perspective. In regard to measure 4, I believe it's important to think in terms of citizens having a way to have their input into the governing process. There are a lot of interim committees that are functioning. However, the citizenry is not very well informed when the interim committees are meeting. So I do think there needs to be a good avenue for them to be able to have their voices heard.
Thank you. Next person to answer this question is Pamela Anderson.
Well, I'll be a big no on measure 1 and a big no on measure 4. I was able to, a little over a year ago, hold my husband's hand. He couldn't breathe, but his heart was as strong as ever. Under this measure, that would not have happened. I have friends who have grandbabies through in vitro fertilization. To me, that's a miracle. If we think we have a workforce issue in this state right now, we pass measure 1, we have a huge workforce issue. Young people are not moving to North Dakota when they can't go to fertility, end of life with this is in people's private life. This is a privacy issue. We cannot pass this. I am asking every one of you out there to go vote and vote no on measure 1.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Al Carlson.
Well, I'm just the opposite of Pam. I'm a definite yes on both of these, and it's no secret that for 22 years I've voted for the sanctity of life. I'm not ashamed of that. That's my philosophy of life. I think there's been a lot of scare tactics on the issue. I think that it's protecting the existing laws we have in place. I honestly voted to make sure that if I had a 16-year-old daughter that was pregnant, that I at least knew about it before she went to the abortion clinic. I think that's a good law. Most parents would agree with that. So we're protecting the laws we have, and I'm also pro lots of other things. I'm pro-business, I'm pro-family, I'm pro-education, I'm pro for the Second Amendment. So But the one thing that is right about this issue, this is between you and your maker. You know, we put it on the ballot so people could vote on it. And they're going to make that conscious decision when they walk in that ballot box. She has a good reason. I have a son who was born to a 16-year-old girl who could have easily been aborted, and today he has 3 lovely grandkids, girls. So he's an example of it being successful in what we've destroyed. So we have different views, and I feel very sorry about your husband, because this isn't about me against you. This is about how you believe about the issue. Measure 4, very quickly, that issue was meant, the biggest thing about that issue was to get it on the fall ballot so that when people are voting largesse from the Treasury, like Measure 5, for example, that has to go where the most amount of voters will be there. And that was the reasoning behind the bill as we started. And I'm voting yes because I don't think we want California here.
The next speaker, Betty Grandy.
Thank you. I am unapologetically pro-life, and I completely believe in the sanctity of life. Every child has a right to life. And with that, I just firmly believe in Measure 1 to protect the laws that North Dakota has in place. End-of-life issues. This bill does not do anything to change our current end-of-life laws. It changes nothing with living wills. It changes nothing with your power of attorney decisions. This is strictly to enhance the constitutional language of sanctity of life. With that, the IVF jobs, I'm hoping that they understand that their job is that of taking care of and creating babies. Obviously, this bill would protect them. How they reverse that in their minds makes no sense unless, of course, they're destroying them at some point. And that's not what they're supposed to be doing in their profession. So that would be protected in this. And I'm out of time, but I am in favor of 4 also.
Next person to answer the question, Sheila Christensen.
I vote no on Measures 1 and 4. Al Carlson, Betty Grandy call themselves small government conservatives, but there's nothing small government about injecting yourself into personal family decisions and family planning with the personhood amendment. When eliminating in vitro, I just want to know what is more pro-life than that, than having children by in vitro for people who need to have that option. And the end-of-life issue, my 94-year-old mother has up until 2 months ago wanted to be resuscitated when the time comes. She has changed her mind now and does not want that. I think that decision should be hers, not you two. As for number 4, the question, my question is, why does the legislature want to limit voters' ability to impact policy through referendum?
Thank you. The next person to answer this question is John Casper.
I wasn't in the legislature to vote on either of these, but I would say that I'm pro-life, I'm firmly pro-life. And I would say on the issue with the measures, I do think that it's important that if we're going to be spending money, people's hard-earned money, if they're going to choose to spend that it should be on the November ballot when more people are active and paying attention to the election. I also think we should seriously consider the ramifications of the people voting to put automatic spending into our Constitution.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question, Warren Solberg.
I am personally pro-life, but with the actions of the last legislature, I don't know that I can be viewed as such, because I feel that the right of the mother's health and safety should be included, and in cases of rape and incest, I can see where it happens there. And that's basically 2 questions I ask people when I knocking on doors and asking them, try and convince me why I should be in support of Measure 1. And I really haven't gotten a good answer yet as to how this will help an ectopic pregnancy, for example, how that fertilized egg will be saved, or a human being. I think it's fodder for attorneys. And as far as Measure 4, with the 8 measures that we have now, I think the money's there, the people are there to discuss the issues, and whenever it comes up, I think it'll be addressed.
The last person to answer this question before we go to summary statements is Randy Veining.
Well, he started it.
Oh, he started it. I'm sorry, Thomas, I ignored you.
Hey, that's
Thomas Beadle.
I feel a little bad about that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I voted against Measure 1 when we were looking to put it on the ballot last legislative session. This last session, when we were dealing with any of the abortion rules and regulations in the bills, for some reason this session we no longer had incest or rape exemptions into a lot of the bills. And frankly, from my perspective, it's a loaded gun. You're never going to convince someone who's pro-choice that they're wrong. You're never going to convince someone who's pro-life that they're wrong. The major religions that are practiced across North Dakota differ on when life begins. When you have issues of differences of religious beliefs, I feel that it's wrong to amend the Constitution in favor of one over the other. Additionally, with issues like end-of-life care, health care directives, and in vitro fertilization, legal professionals and medical professionals come down on both sides of it. The ones in support of the measure say it's not going to have these negative effects. The ones against it say that it will. When the language is vague, we shouldn't amend the Constitution to do it. So that's where I'm against Measure 1. Measure 4 I'm in favor of, primarily because of what Representative Carlson mentioned. If you look back to this past March, Fargo Public School System had a mill levy vote on the ballot, and they rushed the proposal to get onto the ballot because they wanted to have a special election for it. So that's what the attention was drawn for. When you have a special election, you have far lower voter turnout than you do in a primary election. And primary election has far lower voter turnout than a general election. And so when we deal with spending programs, when we deal with spending policies and constitutional amendments that mandate spending, I have a strong belief that the power of the people should be there. They should have the opportunity to vote for it. They should have the opportunity to put it on the ballot. But if we're going to mandate spending, especially constitutional spending, it should be on the general election where the most people's eyes can be on it. Because if we start pre-allocating our budgets prior to the legislature ever meeting, we're going to run into issues like California experiences now, where they come into session and about 40% of their budget's pre-allocated already. And it makes it tough for them to handle shortcomings or challenges that the state faces. So I feel it's bad policy to not have the most voters' eyes on a spending measure as possible.
Thank you. Now it comes to the end of answering questions. We're going to go now to final statements, and we're going to begin with Logan Heinrich. Everybody will have 1 minute to make a final statement. Thank you.
Well, first off, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank all of you that came here to watch us bicker a little bit. I want to thank my the people that I'm running with and the guys I'm running against. It's good to have good discussion to to open up all these ideas and see where we're going. But so the big thing that I know a lot of people are pushing on right now is education. That's what everyone's saying. You know, we got to do something for education. Got to do something for education. But and I'm very much pro-education. The thing that always sticks out to me is we all want to do so much for education, but nobody wants to do anything for the teachers. When you go from starting pay to retirement, we're the second lowest in the entire union in teacher pay. Well, that's abysmal. Why do you want to come and teach kids in North Dakota if you can go anywhere else? And how are we going to achieve those goals that we have if we're not going to appreciate who we have taking care of our kids? And we need to do a better job at that. And then with that, also a big thing that's sticking out to me, maybe it's because I'm a military kid, is that since 2005, our population has grown 10%. But our violent crime rates has doubled. So that's an issue that we have to take advantage of. We have to start addressing that, and we have to squash that before it gets out of hand. In North Dakota, we enjoy this fact that we're this big, small town. Everybody knows each other. We're all kind of this one big, happy community, and it's kind of true. I mean, we might have a lot of opposing views up here, but all of us, I think, can shake hands and still get along. And that's the bonus we have of North Dakota. So we have to stop these violent crimes from happening and from exploding and creating the state into being a much more disastrous place than we really want it to be. But with that, I'd like to, again, thank everybody for coming, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Next person to have a summary statement, 1 minute, Jess Roscoe.
On the campaign trail, I've had the opportunity to have conversations with men and women on both sides of the aisle. But the funny thing is that their concerns are generally the same. Their needs are the same. And you know, North Dakota deserves a balanced legislature that's willing to work together to meet the needs and concerns that the people of District 27 have. You know, right now we've kind of talked about North Dakota has a rather big surplus, and that means that more than ever we have an opportunity to meet the needs of all North Dakotans. But we need to work together on both sides of the aisle to find concrete solutions to our problems. Concrete solutions for those like my mother, who used to be a child care provider, striving to provide quality and affordable child care for the children in New Rockford. For our homeless youth and adults that can't find affordable living in western North Dakota, for seniors struggling to live on a fixed income, and for our growing new American population. And also for our LGBTQ communities that face potential discrimination in housing and in our workforce. I believe that we need balance and we need common sense, and I believe that I can provide that. And so I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you. The last two people who gave their summary statements were candidates for the House of Representatives from District 27, Logan Heinrich and Jess Roscoe. Now we are going to go to District 41, Senate candidates, and we'll begin with Kyle Davison. 1 minute summary statement.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the issues, especially those that affect District 41. I've been out knocking on probably somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 doors, visiting with people throughout the district. I think flood protection, I live in South Fargo. I live right on Drain 27, and I think we made a big step forward today. Looking at how we can help the city of Fargo protect internally one of the economic engines of North Dakota, and that's our community right here. The second thing I think that's important is I think we need to put together block grant funding to help support early childhood education. I'm a member of the Early Child Education Study Committee. I think there's some good work coming out of that committee from the state level that will be presented at the legislature, and I would be in favor of early childhood investments, looking at some kind of block grants. And so finally, I'd appreciate your vote in District 41, and thank you for coming tonight and watching on TV.
Thank you. Our next speaker is also a Senate candidate from District 41, Evelyn Quigley.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and all of you for your excellent questions. I am prepared to work with parties of both sides. We have very complex situations that we need to deal with, and Kyle referenced the flood. My concern about the information today is it's a promise, and I am committed as a candidate for the Senate to do everything that I can to ensure that we have flood protection. As I've gone door to door too, I have heard the concern that we have been too conservative in this state. We have held off making important decisions for our state, and there's an interest in new leadership coming to Bismarck that will be visionary, bold, and will take action to make our state a better place to live. And I would ask for your vote for the North Dakota Senate from District 41. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person for the 1 minute summary statement is a candidate for the House of Representatives in the state of North Dakota from District 41, Pamela Anderson.
Thank you. In conclusion, I have banking and an economic background that I think our state needs right now for North Dakota's future. I'm a community leader with good ideas. I believe Al and Betty are out of touch. They say vote for us to keep North Dakota on track. On track? We don't have early childhood education. We have hundreds of kids on the Head Start waiting list. The West infrastructure is being overwhelmed by the oil boom. We have major drug and human trafficking problems. We have a severe housing shortage. We have a critical need for skilled, educated workers. And we are #1 in the nation in students graduating college with debt. I'm asking for your vote on November 4th. you can expect more from me.
Our next person with a summary statement is a candidate for the House of Representatives, District 41, Al Carlson.
Thank you again for having us tonight. I'm going to take a little different approach. I'm a Ronald Reagan fan, and Ronald Reagan always said our best years are in front of us. There's a lot of optimism for the future in North Dakota. If you have more money in your pocket today because your income taxes are lower, it's because the Republican majority did that. If you pay less property taxes on your home or apartment or office building, it's because the Republican Party did that. If you want more funding in education, we raised it to the highest level that it's ever been, 83% paid by the state. If you want more contribution to higher education, the Republican Party changed the formula, brought $6.5 million more to NDSU than they've ever received before because of a bad formula that we changed. It's because of Republican policies that this state is flourishing. I ask for your vote to keep us growing because I believe that we have this ship pointed in the right direction.
Next person to give a summary statement from District 41, House of Representative candidate Betty Grandy.
Thank you, and thank you for this evening. I guess I look at it in a perspective of we're on the right track, and this is an ever-changing economy. North Dakota is the envy of the nation. We're #1 in the economy, and we are moving forward. And we are growing very quickly, and we need people with a pro-business, lower taxes, free enterprise system ready to go and keep moving in that direction. I don't think what we need is negativeness, bitterness, and misleading statements that are coming from our opponents. And with that, I mean, it reminds me, the postcards that have been coming out, you know, the negativeness that we're seeing on the stuff and the comments in the press, it's always kind of interesting to hear. It reminds me of last election. The day before the election, a postcard showed up at everybody's doorstep in 41, and it said, Representative Grandy shirked her duties and didn't attend enough votes in the legislature. They were talking about the days I was gone for my father's funeral, but they didn't bother telling anybody why I couldn't be at session. They just had to say I wasn't at session and I missed votes. Don't give half-truths and lies and negativeness. Our citizens deserve better. They deserve the truth, and they want a positive workforce going forward.
Thank you. The next person with a 1-minute summary statement is a candidate for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 41, Sheila Christensen.
Representatives Al Carlson and Betty Grandy supported spending big money on UND logo fight and untold amounts of money on bills that they knew were unconstitutional, not to mention the time wasted in session on these matters. I would not do that. They led the charge and voted to cut the oil extraction tax. That is not in the best interest of North Dakota. They neglected our children and their education, health, and well-being. I will be their advocate. They voted against funding property tax relief. I will make it a priority. I want to eliminate the interest on your student loans and the tax on your Social Security and veterans benefits. I have 40 years of broad-based experience, and I'm a lifelong resident here. I would make you and your pocketbook my priority. I ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go back and get summary statements from people from District 27, I want to say thank you to this audience. I have never known that there would be so many questions. I wish we could have covered them all, but you'd have to have brought sleeping bags and we'd stay until tomorrow morning. So I hope that many of the candidates will be able to stay and will answer the questions personally. You people had excellent questions this evening. Now we will continue with summary statements from District 27 Senate candidate John Casper.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. Tremendous event and a tremendous service that they do. I look forward to going to the legislature and working hard to lower property taxes, lower, if not eliminate, the income tax, continue to make North Dakota a great place to live, raise a family, continue to fund education at record levels, which we've done, to work for the Fargo community, to have a comprehensive flood plan and see that it's properly funded. I guess there's some bullet points, but I like stories better. I just really quickly, you know, I have my best friend's moving to North Dakota from Minneapolis this spring, and he's a lifelong Minnesotan, and he's moving here because he thinks this is the best place to raise his family. He thinks that this is the best opportunity for him in his future because he was offered a fantastic job, and you know, we're excited to have him, and I'm excited to work hard in the legislature to continue to bring those kind of people to our state and continue to support the people here that want to have every opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person with a summary statement is a candidate for Senate from District 27, Warren Solberg.
I too would like to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you in attendance for coming tonight and supporting us. It's been an exciting time running a campaign. I'd also like to thank my family for supporting me and being there and helping me through all this, and my mother, and I think especially my father who has passed, and how he, with a man with an 8th grade education, did a lot of things for the community with the township and water boards and you name it, he was involved with it. And when my mother retired, they almost had to hire on help, they got so busy. But one of the character traits my father have is that he never spoke ill of anybody. He was a man of his word, and I hope that I have some of that in me, and when I'm elected to the Senate, I want to carry that on through the Senate and with my colleagues and do the best job I can for our district and for the state. And I don't think we can honor our voters any higher by going out and working together and doing our work in a timely manner and doing the things that we've promised these people that we would do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next person with a summary statement is a candidate for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 27, Thomas Beadle.
Same with everyone else up here. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this event. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting it on. With a 1-minute summary, we were only able to get through 3 questions tonight, which is unfortunate because I'm sure there were plenty of good ones out there. And that happens when we have 12 of us up here. But I would like to thank everyone who did submit questions. And if you do have any for me, please feel free to ask. I hand out my phone number and email address to every door I knock on because I want to hear from people what their big issues are and how I can help them out. If you ever want to get really excited about what we have going on in the state of North Dakota and in the city of Fargo in particular, I really encourage all of you to attend events put on by an organization called Emerging Prairie. Every Wednesday morning is a great example for it. You can go to 1 Million Cups at the Staged Island Park. And what it is it's an event where entrepreneurs get together and they discuss what they have going on from a business perspective, what new businesses are coming in, who's hiring, and really kind of see the growth and the energy and the excitement in our community. We've got tremendous opportunities in our state. We've got a lot of wonderful things going. But all this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We can talk about the $1 billion in property tax relief we passed last legislative session, which you would have seen in a 70 school mill reduction on your property tax statements. We can talk about the income tax cuts that we've done since 2010. We can talk about how we have the best run state in America, according to 24/7 Wall Street and the Washington Post. We can talk about a lot of these wonderful opportunities. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need good leadership, we need good vision, we need to cut red tape, we need to keep our taxes low, we need to provide the infrastructure for these businesses to thrive, and the education and the workforce so that we can continue our success into the future. We've got wonderful things going into the state, and I'm honored to be able to serve in the House to help move the state forward.
Thank you. Next person to speak with a summary statement is a candidate for the House of Representatives in North Dakota from District 27, Randy Baining.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to all the people in attendance tonight. One of the reasons I want to go back to Bismarck again is I want to keep providing the people of the state of North Dakota and my district lower property taxes, lower income tax. We don't need any, we got enough of regulation out. We need to have regulation that's enforced. We're working on that pretty stringently. We put in $2.3 billion in the infrastructure into the state of North Dakota, and a lot of it went out west. One thing we have to think about when we put all this money into infrastructure and buildings. I've talked to a person up in Minot. They built a bank in Fargo. They wanted to build a bank in Minot that was 10,000 square feet less, was the same price tag. They rebid it twice and it come in with, you know, a little bit less. But he says, we're gonna wait, we can't afford to build right now. We've got growing pains out there. We're spending lots of money. I'm working on a construction site. We have 4 underground utility companies working out there. They're all from Minnesota. A lot of our North Dakota people are working out west. I mean, we're bringing people in from all over the state, all over the country, all over the world to work here. We're in a very good situation. I know we have growing pains out there. I'm seeing them out there. Providing affordable housing is a big issue. It's hard to provide affordable housing when it costs 30 to 40% more to build it out there than it does here in Fargo. Thank you, and I'd appreciate your vote November 4th.
Thank you. And I hope everybody in the audience will either vote early, I hope you don't vote often, but, or on election day. We hope to have a wonderful turnout. It was a wonderful turnout tonight. I really appreciate the audience, and I definitely appreciate the candidates, and I hope that you can review it on television, and I hope the League of Women Voters will continue this tradition with legislative forums next spring. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.